Next up, I'd like to talk about who uses Git. So this will be pretty quick as well, and optional. You don't have to know about this in order to use it. But the first most obvious group would be engineers, developers, coders, ranging from people who work on their own little tiny side projects or just hobby projects, entrepreneurs, up to massive tech giants like Facebook and Google. Git is the most commonly used version control system, as we talked about. And when you're developing applications, version control is very, very important to use. On Git's official homepage, they list some of the companies that use it. Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Twitter, LinkedIn, Netflix. And then if you go to a website like StackShare, where you can view, I don't know how accurate StackShare is, but you can view different tools and companies that use them. There's other companies like Robinhood, Reddit, Lyft. StackShare itself uses Git. Smaller companies, Patreon, Fiverr, Canva. I use Canva all the time. Massive companies like Walmart. Anyway, the point is it's used by pretty much any engineering team you can think of. Also, another group that uses Git, or at least would benefit from being familiar with Git, are tech-adjacent roles. So people who are not developers, but work with developers or deal with developers. Learning the basics of Git is not all that difficult, and it can help a lot with conversations, with deadlines, with just, setting expectations. And in particular, designers often need the basic understanding to be able to work with Git and communicate with developers. So another completely separate group of people who are using Git these days are governments and large organizations, not technical, right? They're not, tech startups. Governments use Git a lot to manage the drafting of laws, collaboration of drafting laws, sharing data and large data sets. So Washington, D.C. City Council uses Git and GitHub, we'll talk about GitHub in a bit, to publish its laws and have made it a collaborative process. And citizens have actually found and fixed typos collaboratively in those laws. They've fixed them using Git. So I think I have some examples. Here we are. This is the city of Chattanooga. They use GitHub, which, again, we'll talk about what GitHub is and how it compares to Git. But all you need to know is that it's based on Git. So this project is simple. It just shares parking locations in the city of Chattanooga. And then if we go to GitHub's webpage, they have something called government.github.com. They show actually a whole bunch of different governments that use GitHub, which again is built on top of Git. So governments, groups from Argentina, Australia, the US, the UK, pretty much every country is listed here. Now, that doesn't mean that Git plays a central role in all of these governments. For example, let's see, USGS, the US Geological Survey. They have a whole bunch of things on GitHub, pages and pages of these projects that are shared with the public, and they use Git to manage all of them. Anyway, so that's another group that use Git these days. Scientists also, more and more, are using Git to help collaborate on projects, to share findings and data sets, to manage code and work together on code bases. And Git and GitHub together really work well in an open source or a peer-reviewed world like science and research. We'll learn more about GitHub. I keep saying that, but we will. And some other groups, writers, it's not all writers, certainly. It's not that common these days, but some writers really are becoming fans of Git. I listen to some screenwriting podcasts to fall asleep to sometimes. And every so often there's an episode about using Git to write screenplays, manage versions, right? I talked about having different essay versions. Well, with a screenplay, you've got so many revisions, so many drafts, or a novel, so many characters, so many ways of structuring a novel, ordering things, different arcs. So Git is definitely gaining in popularity there. And then specifically, I've seen multiple use cases of Git for collaborative textbook writing, where textbooks usually have multiple authors. So this is a book, a textbook on informal homotopy, I think it's homotopy type theory. I have no clue what it is, what the book, this means nothing to me other than the fact that it's a textbook on something crazy sounding. But a lot of people have used this textbook. It looks like a couple of thousand people have started. So it's like a favorite of their projects on GitHub. And here we'll see there's 85 people who have collaborated to write this textbook. Just one simple example. Now, the last slide. anyone really can use Git. People find all sorts of creative uses, from keeping a daily diary to writing their PhD thesis with Git, all the way to composers. I saw a Reddit comment from a composer who writes symphonies, and he uses Git to help track the massive changes, all the different files, the parts, as his symphonies evolve over time. It's a multiple month process to write a symphony for a full orchestra with all the different instruments written out. He uses Git to help with that. So I assume a lot of you who are watching this are probably in this group, right there, or maybe this group. But increasingly, I expect in the next few years, there'll be more governments, more scientists, more writers, more symphony composers who use Git, because it really can be, I won't say a life changer, maybe a lifesaver. It can save you a lot of stress and time down the line, assuming you can get past the initial hurdle of learning it. We are on the precipice of learning it, so I'll shut up.